So, very good afternoon to all. Today we are going to discuss the unit number 4. So, 1, 2, 3 is for with respect to in various terminologies we have seen disaster management. Now, unit number 4 is disaster risk management in India. So, how we are going to face and how we are going to come out of that particular disaster, what is the procedure which is being followed, how it has been mobilized, all that we are going to see in unit number 4. So this is disaster risk management methods in India. Okay, so that is what unit number 4 is. So when you see the syllabus, first we will start with hazard and vulnerability profile of India. So we will see how our geography is there and how this geography will affect your cause for disaster and how we are going to come. Okay, the components of disaster relief are water, food, sanitation, shelter, health, waste management, institutional arrangement. Okay, so that plays a major role. That institutional arrangement is going to play a major role. Then comes your disaster management act and policies based upon our experience. So we will face so many disaster. Okay, after facing that consequences, an act will be passed, and based upon that act we will try to put so many policies. So that policies we will try to use it for the upcoming disaster to reduce the risk of that particular disaster. Okay, then we will see about role of GIS and information technology components in preparedness. Then comes your risk assessment, response and recovery phases. So when you say you are recovering from disaster, so there are so many phases involved in recovery process. So that is, we will see recovery phases of disaster and disaster damage assessment, how you are going to assess what is the damage caused due to that particular disaster. So this is with respect to unit number 4, and today's class we will discuss about the first 2 points. Okay, so before going into, just we will refresh. I think you all know something called as hazards and something called as vulnerability, and this is correlation between these two is your damage. Okay, so usually what we say, people should be protected, property should be protected, essential service should be given during the time of disaster. So I am talking with respect to this right hand side part. So usually what we say is people should be aware, property should be such that it did not get damaged due to the disaster. During time of disaster, all essential service has to be provided, and the environment should be closely monitored, and the economy should be as such it has to face the disaster. Okay, so this is all comes under this particular vulnerability. And the other part is hazard. When you say hazard, I think we all know we divided into natural as well as artificial or man-made we call. There are so many procedures that man-made hazards can be reduced. Okay, one of the major is greenhouse. To prevent this greenhouse gases, what we do is usually we are supposed to plant trees. Okay, so plant more number of trees, then automatically this circle radius will be reduced. So in order to reduce this circle, you should educate the people. So only thing is the area which is there between the both is for risk. So okay, so this area has to be reduced. See, if you reduce this area, automatically what will happen is damage is reduced. So that is what our conclusion is. That is what we say, hazards meets with vulnerability to form disaster in you. Okay, so we have to try to reduce this area, this risk area we have to reduce. So for to reduce the risk, both side we should have to plan. And one part of this hazard is natural hazards. We cannot reduce or we cannot make it zero. We can reduce by reducing the greenhouse gases, emitting greenhouse gases and all. Okay, but artificial hazards we can reduce to a greater extent by planting trees and all. Okay, so this is what we have to understand that they both are interdependent. So if you are not monitoring one part, then automatically it will affect another side and the damage will be more. Okay, so hazard profile of India. So when you say as a profile, so I think in syllabus first topic is profile. Okay, hazards and vulnerability profile of India. So till now we have seen disasters on the world, we have seen, not with respect to a country. Now we are going to see only with respect to a country. Okay, and we are going to see with respect to India. So that is what fourth unit is. So India's hazard profile depends on geographic climate condition. That is all we know. So each and every portion we have certain climates, and due to that climate there are some disaster can occur. Okay, for example, when you say south part of India, you have two sides, one is eastern and western, and in eastern side you don't have any range, hilly ranges, it's there but it's not continuous, whereas in case of Western Ghats you have a continuous range, so rainfall will be more. If there is more rainfall, then you have to make such arrangement that you have to come rid of flood. So this flood depends upon geoclimatic conditions, okay, and the topography, how that area is been formed, and depending upon that disaster will occur. Okay, and the underlining vulnerability causes annual disaster for varying degree like flood, drought, cyclone, tsunami, earthquakes, landslides, avalanche, which is nothing but breakage of very huge piece of ice and suddenly released through water surface. So all this will happen only in Himachal Pradesh region, where a very big ice suddenly when get collapsed and fall inside the river, obviously water level will increase and thereby flood. There is chance for flood and all. Forest fire in the country, forest fire will take place only if the area is very dry, like Rajasthan, where this forest fire can take place. So depending upon the topographic of that particular area, you have disaster on that particular area. Again, drought and all will be there more in a region where more hot, so like Rajasthan places. Okay, we will see one by one. Okay, then vulnerability profile of India. India have been vulnerable in varying degree to large number of natural as well as human made disaster on account of unique geographic climate and socially economic condition. Yeah, then only one word will be different between the hazard and vulnerability is economic. Okay, so due to lack of economic development, there are so many slums are being developed, and these are more prone for disaster. We have seen from 1 to 3 unit. So on the beds of river, on the coastal areas, due to availability of land and cheap due to settlement, there are more prone for that areas. So that is what we say. This word we will not say when we talk about hazard. So this we talk only when we talk about vulnerability. Okay, so it is highly vulnerable to flood, drought, cyclone, earthquake, landslide, avalanche and forest fire. India is now, you have totally 36 including both states as well as union territories. We have totally 36. Among this 36, 27 states and union territories are more prone for disaster. So I think remaining only nine places are there that are comes in the center part of India, where the possibility is less. Whereas when you say on the whole around 36 states and union territory, I am putting together, I am saying states plus union territories, total number is 36. So out of which 27 areas are highly prone to disaster. Okay, almost 58.6% of the land mass is prone to earthquake of moderate to high intensity. Over 40 million hectares are prone to flood and river erosion. Of 7516 kilometers long coastal line, we have very big coastal line because our country is a peninsular country, so it is surrounded by three side water. So I think compared to other countries, why our disaster is more is because of all these reasons. Okay, landslide is going to take place more than 58.6% of the total land, and we have a region where more flood, and we have even region where there is no rainfall also. So over 60 million hectares are prone to flood, which means they are all on one. It should lie near the river, or it should be along the coastal regions. Close to 5,700 kilometers are prone to cyclone and tsunami. Around see, yeah, this will not match. Okay, all coastal region will not go for tsunami, even though you have 7,516 kilometers. Only 5,700, say around from 7,000, only 5,000 are prone for cyclones and tsunamis. We all know that Western Ghats will escape. Only this Eastern Ghats will get to cyclone and tsunami and all. I think you should know, because due to the your hilly regions and all, there is a difference occurring between Eastern Ghats and Western Ghats. 68% of the cultivable area is vulnerable to drought. So if the rainfall fails, because we depends upon our agriculture are depend on rain rather than groundwater, so around 68% there is chance for non-availability of water. So this is on the whole we have discussed. Now let us see one by one what is the case in case of India. So first let us start with earthquake. It is estimated that about 59% of the India's land area is prone to earthquake. Where we have already discussed, where you will have earthquake will be near the coastal region or a place where more water gets stagnant. Okay, so there is chance for earthquake there. And the Himachal and adjoint area, and Himachal Pradesh we all know, since that is a mountain and we say it is a growing mountain, so which means underneath plates are moving. Whenever underneath plates are moving, then there is a chance for earthquake. Okay, and northeastern part of Gujarat, Andaman Nicobar Island, and area where this earthquake is more, we call it as seismically most active regions. So we will see with the graph. So you can see here this part of Assam area, then some part of in Jammu and Kashmir, and some part of in Gujarat. So these regions are very high prone for earthquake. Okay, so I repeat, so this indicates very high. Then comes high risk. So this all areas comes under very high risk, and high risk zones are total Jammu and Kashmir, because it is totally hilly area. So earthquakes can occur mostly when where there is hill. Okay, because there is a underneath you have a movement of land area, so there is either it will project outwards or it will go inward. When there is inward, we call it as earthquake. So these are the regions. Okay, so moderate risk is available where rivers are flowing, major rivers are flowing, and then low risk zones are there. Okay, so in the low risk zones the earthquakes are less compared to other regions. Okay, now let us move on to next one is drought. According to Natural Disaster Management Division of Ministry of Agriculture, so this lack of water is always taken care by the Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, so Ministry of Agriculture will define about this, because only agriculture we need flood for water, and if this water is lagging, then that leads to disaster. Okay, so that is why we get the information from ministry. We see in today's slide there how many ministry are there and how many ministry are working for this disaster and all, we will see. But this particular with respect to lack of water, then the Ministry of Agriculture will only report about that issues. Okay, so totally India's are receiving rainfall less than 750 mm, making it is chronically drought prone area, while 35% of receive rainfall between 715 to 1125. So till 1125 itself is very less. Okay, it is assigned to be a drought prone state area, thus totally covering the entire India. 68% region are depending only on rain for cultivation, and this 68 region are going to face drought due to lack of rainfall. Okay, so this is what we say. So when you see now it is reversely drawn. Okay, this region and all there is no issue of water and all. Okay, so all that region will go. So very dark region, I think you have seen, it is near Rajasthan. So obviously we all know, since it is desert, the water availability will be very less in this region. Okay, then you have moderate value among here. Even Chennai comes under very moderate, so sometimes we lack of water. Again in Tamil Nadu, when you see a belt like Tirunelveli, Nagarkoil, all that region, they have surplus water, so they doesn't come into this picture. Okay, so they have one river which is always flowing in one, that is the only river in Tamil Nadu which doesn't gets dried up, because it receives water from Kerala. Okay, that Tirunelveli belt they have, so that river alone gets water from Kerala, so that part you don't have facing this water problem. So drought will not be there in that region. Remaining region you have slightly you have. Okay, so this is about that. Next let us move on to flood. Now flood is overflowing of water. So from this graph itself you can say, you might have marked some white region that now you will cover. So out of 40 million hectares of flood prone area in the country, around 7.5 million hectares are affected every year by recurring flood. Even though we say there are flood prone areas and they does not always occur, while flood occur in almost all river basins in India. So if the river is always flowing, then there is a chance for increase in water level. Large part of states such as Assam, Bihar, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal are affected almost every year. Even though you say Kerala you receive more rain, there is no issue that all water will go to sea, so that will not come into picture of flood. But something has happened in 2015 where like Kerala is entirely washed out by flood. The reason is, that is man-made reason, that is not natural problem. What they have done is, all the dams are kept closed, they have not opened the dam. They opened the dam at the last minute. Okay, what they did, year after, even if we close and keep, the entire dam will break. So suddenly at one night all the dams in Kerala has been opened, so water has entered the state and flood has occurred. But only due to that reason it has flood, so only Kerala will not come under flood and all. So only Assam, Bihar, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal are almost affected every year. Okay, so this is what they show, flood hazard map. So these regions are usually, you have more rivers, all that because of from Jammu and Kashmir, from Himachal Pradesh. So these regions there is a chance for flood. That is what I told. Even though Kerala is there, this post will not come into picture. Only some part of Kerala, down part of Kerala, there is a chance, and upper part of Kerala they get escaped. Okay, so otherwise when you see this region is also, it is like slightly projected outwards, so there is a chance for flood because of cyclone. Okay, so that is why this region comes into picture. Whereas when you see the other part of India, you don't have even water, so there is no chance for flood. Then comes your landslide. About 12, again landslide is interrelated with your earthquake regions. About 12% of land is prone for flood and river erosion, and hilly areas at risk from landslide and avalanches. That is what I told. Very huge piece of ice suddenly break and try to fall on river. Approximately 71% of 7516 coastal India is susceptible to cyclone, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Andhra Pradesh, Orissa we will not forget. All cyclones which forms and try to come near Tamil Nadu will escape from Tamil Nadu and try to go and eat only Orissa. So Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, in Tamil Nadu you have a place called like Kadalur, where they usually prone for cyclones. The upper part of Tamil Nadu will not come into picture. Okay, so affected periodically due to cyclone. So there we, from this what we conclude is, we are able to identify which region is get affected by which disaster. So now you have to prepare. Okay, that is what the unit 4 itself is. Suddenly you will not get anything on any state newly, any type of disaster, only it is going to repeat. That is what we say, every year all these places get cyclone. Okay, according to the annual report 2012-13, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and this Ministry of Home Affairs is for cyclone. out of 35 states and union territory in the country, 27 are disaster prone. So Ministry of Human Affairs is the head for all, so they will look care of the entire all types of disaster. So this is the report given in 2012-13. Okay, so to prepare this class itself, I have gone to website of Indian government, Ministry of Home Affairs, and only I have taken the datas. So kindly go through the slide, that itself is more than sufficient for you to for the exam point of view. The livelihood security of the coastal community and ecological security of coastal zones of India are already under stress due to high population density. This is what I told you. So when the population density increases, then the disaster effect will also increase. So rapid urbanization and industrial development, high rate of coastal environmental degradation, and frequent occurrence of natural disasters such as cyclone and storm. The problem is going to be further aggravated by the rise in sea level due to the global warming. Since your temperature is going on increasing, that increase in temperature is because of CO2 emission. So the CO2 emission, since CO2 is the heaviest gas, so what is happening is what you are emitting from your vehicle and all burning of fossil fuels, these gas doesn't go up, so they stay at the bottom, so more warming, so more water will be get evaporated, and this will get accumulated in one particular place and it starts to form cyclone. This will usually occur over the sea level. What happens is all the gas will go and accumulate over the surface of the sea, so their temperature is rising more, so more water gets vaporized and it forms cyclone. Okay, so this will affect only in coastal zone. So coastal zone in India, particularly the east coast, I told west coast will not come into picture, because whatever is coming, they have very huge hilly areas like Western Ghats, so all that will try to protect them. So even if water is there, that will run away to sea and they will escape. Whereas in the Eastern Ghats side, once the cyclone comes, it will enter and reach till that end. Okay, even in Varda you might have seen, even it has touched the Western Ghat itself by entering into Eastern Ghat. Okay, so this is what we mean to say. So coastal zones in India, particularly east coast, when we say east coast, most affected person is Orissa. Okay, all that will try to move up and try to damage the Orissa alone. Okay, that we have seen in so many cyclones and all such hazards. So this is the map for wind and cyclone. So it is very clear, dark blue lines, blue. So at the top portion you have, this is because of melting of ices, and all this region again you have cyclone because of wind direction, and then only your Eastern Ghats. This Western Ghat will not come into picture, so only Eastern Ghats will come into picture, and we usually escape because we are not coming out. The only thing is, one, this will enter here in Andhra Pradesh, it will enter, or it will enter near Orissa. Okay, so this is what the first topic in unit number 4. So they may ask us a 16-mark question, explain the profile of disaster profile of India. So you have to one by one you have to explain. So what are the various disaster that is going to occur in India? There is no chance for there is no more chance for forest fire or like hurricanes and all. Oh, here you have only cyclone and flood. So we have to explain. No need to draw the map and all. Just the region you can specify which state will be get affected more for which type of disaster. That is more than sufficient. Just for understanding, I have shown with the map. Okay, so that map and all you don't want to draw in your exam, but the question is you can expect. Okay, so explain the hazard profile or vulnerability profile of India with respect to disaster. If they ask, you have to explain all this. Okay, now let us move on to the second topic for today's section, is component of disaster relief. So what is disaster relief is how you are going to come out of the disaster. So you have to supply water, you have to supply food. Even though see a cyclone has occurred or if flood has occurred, I cannot ask the people to consume that water because that will be get contaminated. So they cannot directly consume that water even though it is flood. See, even if flood occur, I cannot go out and take water and consume because it will be contaminated. So first person which has to be supplied is water. So you have to bring it from external and try to store it in tank, and you are supposed to ask them to boil and use. Okay, then comes food is usually there are some foods which will not get easily affected. All such foods has to be stored properly and should be distributed. And sanitation, shelter, all in coastal region you will have this shelter problem due to tsunami or cyclone. The entire will be washed out, so you have to always prepare for a place where you are going to put the shelter. And health and waste management, and the last one is institutional arrangements. This all comes under this institutional arrangement. They have entire disaster management course. So the work of the student under this disaster management course is they have to go and study what has happened in a place. They have to sit and study. Once after studying, they have to write the assignment, and that assignment they will use it for try to predict what will happen in near future. Okay, like there are so many softwares, like we are using MATLAB software. Same software can be used for predicting also. They will predict now if the condition in 2012 is this, what will be in 2021, what will be in 2022, and all this comes under this institutional arrangement. And this institutional arrangement, they will go in and with your central government ministry. So they too will work simultaneously in order to prevent the disaster occurring due to hazards. Okay, so that is what the second topic. So water and sanitation for emergencies, that is assume immediate population needs and the available supply. So immediately they require, see, water and all cannot be given after 2 days or 3 days. As soon as disaster occurred, you have to give. Protect upstream water supply and wells. So you should not ask them to use the upstream water or water from the well. Treat all surface water as a polluted. So they have to treat all the surface water as polluted at that situation. So they are not supposed to use upstream water supplies or wells. Okay, pump supply to storage tank. So you have to use with the like pumping. You have to bring it and pump it to the tank and to be used as base for more development distribution system. Provide basic collection, storage and treatment facilities for protected source. Prevent, like there always you can see that there will be some disease occurring due to some excess, like when there is water you will have so many disease. So all that should be taken. Provide safe disposal of all the consumed what you have done has to be safely disposed. Then integrate hygienic promotion with the community. So you have to teach them. So all this content I have taken from ENVIS, Center for Hygienic Sanitation Sewage Treatment System and Technology, New Delhi. So this is a ministry. So they have a separate ministry for this, that we call it as ENVIS, Center for Hygienic and Sanitation Sewage Treatment System and Technology, New Delhi. You can even go to Google and just type it and see. So their entire ministry is there. They are taking care of this. So next one is prepare and emergency food supply. So what type of food should be given to the people who are in disastrous? You have to give, like, have a long storage life. Okay, perishable items you are not supposed to go and give to them because they cannot keep it for 1 or 2 days and they cannot have it. So you have to give such that has to be given to the people during disaster, so that can be used by them for 2 or 3 days. So require little or no cooking. So what the food which you are going to give, it should be like that there is no need for any cooking, and there is no required for water or refrigeration in the case utilities are distributed. So you have to distribute to the affected place like this, that is the food which you are going to give does not require any cooking, does not require any water or refrigeration. Meet the need of the babies and other family members who are on special diets. So all that thing you have to supposed to give. You cannot say you also consume this and please give it to your children, where that is care should be taken. Meet the pets need are not very salty and spicy. So you should not prepare a food item like biryani and all and go and distribute, because already they will be lacking in water. So when they take this, they require more water to consume. So all this should be taken care. So that is what they say. So supply a food that should be no need for cooking, no need water for that particular food to be consumed, no refrigeration is required. Then that you should separately give a concern on food needed for babies and all that thing. And more salty and spicy foods should be avoided, because that will increase the need for drinking water, which may be in short of supply at the time of disaster. So this is about the prepare of emergency food supply. So these types of food only should be given at the time of emergency. Throwaway foods that may have common in contact with the flood and storm water, you might have stored previously, and that might have been in contact with the flood and storm water, that you are not supposed to go and give it to them, because they might be get contaminated. All perishable foods that you not been refrigerated properly due to power outage, and those with unusual odor, color or texture should be avoided. Because see, what happens is, already they are in disaster, you go and give something, and if some disease starts spreading, then that will also spread. See, for example, if any material which you are going and giving may affect them, again that will try to spread. Okay, already there is an issue of disaster and this will increase. So that is why they say don't give a food which is normally required refrigeration and all. Okay, because that will get destroyed easily, and that may prone to some other issues. Unsafe food can be make you sick, even it looks, smell and taste normal. When it is doubt, throw it out. So that is what we mean to say. If it is, you feel something, then kindly throw it out, so that you can reduce the disaster risk. Then comes your institutional and policy framework. That only I told, these two are interlinked. From that institutional, see, there is an institutional there for disaster management, they will study. So their role is to go and collect the data for each and every type of disaster. So from the collected data only I can make the policy and frame. So that is why they two are interlinked. So institutional and policy mechanism for carrying out response, relief and rehabilitation has been well established since independence in our country. So after independence, we have well established this mechanism have proved to be robust and effective in so far as response, relief and rehabilitation are concerned. So when compared to, there are so many countries, straightly you should not go and compare USA or UK. Okay, that is what we usually do. When you ask to compare, you straightly go and compare with USA and say India is not developed. So that is not the case. See, the issue is there are so many issues in India, because we have more number of communal categories there, more number of languages speaking is there. Our area is prone for all type of climatic conditions. So compared to some other countries like small countries or even some big countries, we are well established. Okay, after independence our policies are well established. These mechanisms have proved also to be robust and effective. Okay, in relief and rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is building up new area where they start their livelihood. So that is what rehabilitation is concerned. Okay, so at the national level, the Ministry of Home Affairs is the nodal ministry for all matter concerning disaster management. So when you say disaster management, then the Ministry of Home Affairs, I think we might have heard this word, Ministry of Home Affairs. The Central Relief Commissioner in the Ministry of Home Affairs is the nodal officer. Nodal officer is who is going to take care. Okay, so in Ministry of Home Affairs is a very big, in which there is a person called CRC. CRC is Central Relief Commissioner in the Ministry of Home Affairs, is the nodal officer to coordinate relief operation for natural disaster. The CRC receive information relating to forecasting, warning of natural calamities from Indian Meteorological Department and from Central Water Commission of Ministry of Water Resources on continuous basis. So they will get the data continuously. Data will be received and they will try to extrapolate the data and try to get the thing from that. So, okay, so the departments which is giving the data are Indian Meteorological Department, and that meteorological department we call it as IMD, and Central Water Commission, Ministry of Water Resources. Okay, these two forms. Next is we will see how many ministries are there under this to take care of disaster. Okay, first the ministry bar department bar organization concerned with the primary and secondary function relating to the management of disaster includes Indian Meteorological Department, Center for Water Commission, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Urban Development, Department of Communication, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Petroleum, Department of Agriculture and Corporation, Ministry of Power. I think we all know. There is no need that why this ministry is related, because I will say, see, climate is being monitored by meteorology person, water condition is being watered by this central, then home affairs is, I have told, all come under this fellow. Defense is for whenever there is some disaster is occurring, then only this defense army people will be brought and they will help. Okay, they are trained. Even in defense there is a separate division who have been given training only for rescuing people during disaster. Okay, so that is the role of defense. And finances, they have to allocate the money, so they are involved. Then development of rural and development of urban. Then Department of Communication is for intimating what has occurred at a part of India, okay, to the rest of the world, so or even rest of the India. So communication is required. Ministry for Health is, they will tell about all sanitaries, what should be done. The Ministry of Water Resources, so Central Water Commission will tell about flood and all that thing. And Ministry of Water Resources is for supplying the water at the time of disaster and all. Then Ministry of Petrochemical is for any chemical borne diseases. Okay, if there is any due to some chemical borne diseases or disaster, this fellow will come into picture. Then Department of Agriculture, I have already told, only they will tell about draft. Then Ministry of Power, this is because when there is some disaster, first fellow we will get cut his power. Then Department of Civil Service is for your all ration shop items. Ministry of Railways is for communication, so you have to communicate, you have to get transported from one area to other. So at the type of all this disaster, entire food material will be travelled through railways. I think even corona time only this has not stopped. Okay, Ministry of Railways has worked to a greater extent that every transporting material is brought only via railways. We doesn't allow human to travel, but all food grains and other materials is only been travelled all over the India through this railways only. Only goods train was running till now. They not even stopped for 1 or 2 days. So that is what the Ministry of Railways plays a major role. See, mode of communication more easy and more quantity can be only easily transferred through railways. Okay, so that plays a major role. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, this is related with the Communication Department. Okay, then Planning Commission, then Cabinet Secretariat, Department of Surface Transport, then Ministry of Social and Justice, this is for law issues, then Department of Women and Child Development, then Ministry of Environment and Forest, and finally Department of Food. So all these departments put together is going to manage the disaster which is occurring. So in which some will be in primary and some will be in secondary, which means their action will be depending only for certain type of disaster. They will not come into picture for all type of disaster. So that is why they are called as secondary, but remaining are called as primary. Okay, so each ministry bar department bar organization nominate their nodal officer to the crisis management group chaired by Central Relief Commission. So okay, so each and every ministry has to appoint a nominee. The nodal officer is responsible for preparing sectorial action plan, emergency support function plan for managing the disaster. So you might have seen so many ministry, so all the ministry should nominate a person called nodal officer. So that nodal officer, through him only we will communicate, and the person who is to communicate is CRC. That is what we have already told. A person is there, CRC, under the Ministry of Okay, through him only we will try to do it. Now, cabinet secretary, who is the highest executive officer, heads this national crisis management committee. So NCMC, national crisis management committee, is there, and the cabinet secretary of the at the time will be the highest executive officer of this. Secretariat of all concerned ministry, department, well organization are the members of the committee. The NCMC gives the direction to the crisis management group as deemed necessary. The secretary and the Ministry of Home Affairs is responsible for ensuring that all developments are brought to the notice of NCMC properly, then promptly, then can given direction to any ministry. So this fellow can directly give instruction to all other ministries and department and organization to work if any crisis is occurring. Okay, next come crisis management group. The central relief commissioner in the Ministry of Home Affairs is the chairman of CMG. Okay, so hereafter when you see anything called the CMG, that is crisis management group. Okay, consisting of senior officers called the nodal officer for various concerned ministry. The CMG functions are to review every year contingency plan formulated by various ministries. See, all the case we will not work till disaster occurring. So we will predict when this disaster may occur. See, draft and all is not going to occur on a single day. It may take time. So data should come to here, and these fellows will try to calculate and try to allocate money before the disaster is occurring. Okay, they will try to provide so that they can go for proper relief. Then control room is there, which is nothing but we call it as emergency operation room. An emergency operation center exists in nodal Ministry of Human Affairs, which function round the clock to assist Central Relief Commission in charge of this duty. The activity of control room include collection and transmission of information concerning natural calamities and relief, keeping close contact with the government affected states, interaction with other central ministry department in this connection with relief. So this fellow only will get the record and gets asked, that record will be recorded. So that is the role of this emergency operation center or control room. Then come contingency action plan. A national contingency action plan for dealing with contingency arising in the wake of natural disaster is being formulated by the government of India, and it has been periodically updated. It facilitates the launching of relief operation without any delay. Okay, the CAP identifies the initiative required to be taken by the various central minister bar department in wake of natural calamities, set down the procedure and determines the focal point in administrative missionaries. Then state relief manuals. So once from central it is been allocated and given, it will come to state. Then state have to take care. Each state government has a relief manuals bar codes. Manual is nothing but how you are going to split and give this. See, from central government they will give to state. So in state only you should know how you are going to divide, how you are going to send this, and how this reaches the normal person. Okay, these are reviewed and updated periodically. So I think you might have heard this. They will come and ask how many people are there. They will take census. All the census are periodically done because they have to identify whether they are staying or there is any shift or there is any new incoming for that particular state in that particular region. Okay, so they are revised and updated periodically based on the experience of managing the disaster and the need of the state. Then funding mechanism. See, you want fund, that is the last. No, the entire thing is for giving the funding. So what is the funding mechanism is the policy and the funding mechanism for the provision of relief assistance to those affected by natural calamities is clearly laid down. Everything is written document is there. Okay, these are received by the finance commission appointed by the government of India every 5 years. So finance officer has to do that. Finance commission makes the recommendation regarding the division of tax and non-tax, because only by tax when you collect they get the revenue. Only if the revenue is got they can distribute it. So fund is usually from the tax. So whoever pays tax, the tax money is only taken and being given if there is any disasters occurring. Okay, the climatic relief fund has been sent up in each state as per the recommendation of 11th Finance Commission. Okay, so it has been set. Then funding mechanism we continue. The size of the claimability relief fund depends upon the fixed by the Finance Commission after taking into account the expenditure on relief. 75% will be given by central government usually, and the 25% the state has to bear. Okay, so state has to bear 25% and 75% will be given by central government. The relief assistance to those affected by natural calamities is granted by CRF. So that is what we have seen already. So calamity relief fund. Then overall norms for relief assistance are laid down by natural committees with respect to state as a member. Different states have a state specific norms by recommended by state level committees. So now we have gone from national level to state level, where the calamity of such, see, because only state can identify what type of disaster and all will occur, and you have to explain, and that will be used by the central government for issuing. Okay, so that is only briefly explained. So we can stop with this for today's class. So if you have any doubts regarding this unit number 4, you can ask. And even what has happened is they have